Cedar Springs, Michigan, a small town where winters last longer than expected and everyone calls each other by name. At the end of Willow Avenue, there was an old ground-floor apartment with a peeling wooden fence and a cluster of wild daisies quietly blooming by the window. That was where a 13-year-old girl named Lily Whitman lived with her mother Sarah, a night shift nurse at the local clinic. Lily was born blind. Not a single ray of light had ever touched her pale brown eyes. On top of that, she had mild autism, which made her speak very little, avoid contact, and dislike sharp sounds. To outsiders, Lily seemed to live in a world completely separate, hidden, closed off, and untouchable. But to Sarah, her daughter was a fragile miracle, cherished each day like a petal in the wind. Every day after school, Lily would sit quietly in the corner of the living room where sunlight filtered softly through the curtains, warm and gentle. She would press her ear close to an old cassette player, listening to classical music and old recordings of her mother singing. Sarah had a deep, slightly husky voice, but it was full of emotion, a kind of sound Lily had never forgotten. Amazing Grace was her favorite song. When she was little, whenever she had a stomachache or couldn't sleep, she would curl into her mother's lap and whisper, "Sing that song, Mom," or ever dash. Before we continue to follow Lily's extraordinary journey, if you also believe that a person's true worth doesn't lie in their appearance or circumstances, but in unyielding determination and passion, please like and subscribe to our channel so we can share more inspiring stories like this with even more people. Now, let's return to the story where surprises still await. Cedar Springs Middle School was not an ideal place for children like Lily. Her classmates avoided her, sometimes even giggling when she tripped or answered slowly in class. The teachers were kind, but tired. No one hated Lily, they just didn't know what to do with a child who was so unlike the others. One Monday morning, as Lily entered class, the school PA system came on. "Good morning, students. Next week is Talent Week at school. If anyone wants to perform, please sign up on the bulletin board in front of the office by Wednesday." And the whole class buzzed with excitement. Chatter, TikTok plans, dancing, musical instruments filled the air. Lily stayed silent. She had no friends, no instruments, didn't know how to dance. She didn't think she belonged on any stage. But on the way home, a group of students stood by the bulletin board, giggling. Lily heard someone whisper, "Hey, write her name down, just for fun." Then another voice, "Lily Whitman, singing. Isn't that hilarious?" A small burst of laughter followed. Lily stood just a few steps away, gripping her white cane tightly. She said nothing, didn't turn around. But that night, when Sarah came home from her shift, she found her daughter sitting in the corner braille songbook on her lap, fingers tracing the lyrics of Amazing Grace. Sarah sat down beside her, didn't ask anything right away. She simply placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. After a while, Lily whispered, "Mom, they put my name on the performance list. The kids think it's a joke. But if I sing your song, I want to do it for real." Sarah was silent for a long moment. She looked at her daughter's face, still expressionless as always, but there was a faint glimmer, something very small, very fragile, like hope. At last she said, "If you truly want to sing, I'll sit in the front row, even if I have to take time off work." Lily turned her face toward the sound of her mother's voice. A tiny, fleeting smile passed across her lips like a flicker of flame. Not because she felt supported, but because she knew that at least one person, the one person in the world, truly wanted to hear her sing. 3 days later, the hallway in front of the main office at Cedar Springs School was packed with students' names. Near the bottom of the list, scrawled among large neon-colored handwriting, was a small, carefully written line. "Lily Whitman," singing no accompaniment. No one remembered seeing Lily walk up. No one saw her write her name. But the line was there, and to many, it became the latest joke in a week already full of flashy, noisy performances. A student named Eric scoffed. "Lily singing? With what? Morse code?" The blonde girl next to him whispered, "She'll probably finish the song, and then go look for the mic." Laughter rippled lightly through the group, but Lily didn't hear those words the way people assumed. She heard them all, loud and clear. She just no longer let them define her. That evening, In their small apartment where Sarah was stitching the hem of an old white dress, Lily sat by the desk lamp. In front of her was a braille notebook. Inside were the lyrics to Amazing Grace, each line copied carefully by her mother's hand. "You can just sing at home if you want, Lily," Sarah said gently, needle still moving across the fabric. "No one's making you stand in front of the whole school if you don't want to." Lily shook her head. "It's not about school, not about the kids. If you once sang that song for me, then this time I want to sing it for you." Sarah paused. Her hand trembled slightly. Not because of the dress, but because of that sentence, spoken by a blind, autistic girl, was the most beautiful song she'd ever heard. On rehearsal day, the music teacher, Ems Henderson, an Irish woman nearing retirement, met Lily at the classroom door. Though she had taught Lily for a year, this was the first time she truly saw her. "Do you need accompaniment?" she asked softly. "No," Lily replied quietly. "I want my voice to speak for itself." "I see." In the echoing, empty practice room, Lily stood alone in the center of a seated circle of students. Phones were held up, curious eyes stared, quiet giggles slipped through. But there was also anticipation, kind of silence no one could quite explain. Lily nodded. Miss Henderson gave the signal. And then, a voice rang out. Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound. The entire class froze. No technique, no vocal runs, just a plain voice, trembling at first, but containing something real. As if each word had been torn from a deep place, broken and then pieced back together by sincere heartbeats. Miss Henderson sat up straight, blinking quickly. A student doodling let go of his pen. Someone pulled out an earbud. Another gently put down their phone. Lily stood there, unable to see the audience, unable to feel their stares, but she could sense the air had changed. "I once was lost, but now am found." Each lyric seemed to tell of the times she'd been left alone on the playground, the lunches with no one sitting next to her, the long nights when Sarah sang her to sleep through silent tears. "Was blind, but now I see." When the song ended, no one clapped. Not because they didn't like it, but because they forgot what to do. A boy mumbled, "I didn't think she could sing like that." A girl whispered, I got chills." Miss Henderson stepped forward. She didn't say much, just gently placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. "You'll be the final act on performance night," she said. "The closing." Lily turned her face toward the sound of the voice. "Because I sang the best?" "No," Miss Henderson smiled, eyes glistening. "Because after you, no one else could possibly follow." That night, when Sarah came home, she found Lily standing in front of the mirror not to see herself, but to feel the white dress her mother had just altered. Her fingers traced each seam, a small smile appearing at the corner of her lips. "Are you scared?" Sarah asked. "Yes," Lily whispered. "But I have you. That's enough." Friday. The April breeze rustled gently through the oak trees lining the Cedar Springs schoolyard. Colored flags, balloons, and a banner reading Talent Showcase were strung along the main hallway. The auditorium had been temporarily set up in the gym, with a small wooden stage and several rows of neatly arranged plastic chairs. Parents began to arrive. Children chirped excitedly in bright dresses and light-colored shirts. A group of students rehearsed their dance behind the stage. Microphones were being tested. Piano sounds echoed from the adjacent music room. The atmosphere was lively, nervous, like every other school performance. Sarah Whitman entered the auditorium with a slightly hunched posture, carrying an old cloth bag filled with water and tissues. She had taken the night shift off, staying awake for 24 hours just to sit in the third row the seat. Lily said, "Mom will hear me best from here." The white dress Lily wore was the only one she had. Sarah had repaired the shoulder seam and sewn a small lace trim around the collar, not for beauty, but so Lily could feel which side was the front. Her hair was tied into 2 low buns, her face solemn, but her lips pressed together as if holding something tightly inside. Before the performance, many students passed by Lily without stopping. Some glanced, chuckled. A boy raised his phone as if preparing to record a funny moment. But she didn't react, didn't fidget, didn't bow her head. She just clutched her braille notebook tightly, like a protective talisman. When the MC read the final act of the long afternoon, many parents were already sighing. Some discreetly checked their watches. Children began to fidget in their seats. The closing performance today is a special presentation, without accompaniment. A student from Class B7 will perform the song Amazing Grace. The host's voice hesitated a bit, then she paused. Please welcome Lily Whitman. An odd silence followed. No applause, just a cautious kind of waiting. As if everyone was thinking, here comes another touching act we're forced to watch. Lily stepped forward. Her right hand held her white cane, her left held the notebook. She moved step by step as if she had rehearsed it. No one led her, she walked on her own, slowly but steadily. When she reached the center of the stage, she folded her cane, gently touched the floor, then stood upright. The stage lights shone down. She couldn't see them, but Sarah knew her daughter could feel them. She saw Lily's shoulders rise with a deep breath like a diver drawing air before sinking into the ocean's depth. And then, with no background music, no microphone, just her natural voice, she began. Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound. No one expected it. Not a single person. That voice was not powerful, not rich, not flawless, but it was something entirely different from all the previous performances. It was real. It didn't try to impress, it simply spoke what she had carried inside for years, that she had a voice, and she wanted to be heard, even just once. A teacher holding a cup of coffee paused mid-sip. A bespectacled mother touched the collar of her blouse as if to steady herself. Sarah closed her eyes. She didn't cry, but her soul vibrated like a long silent string finally being touched. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Lily sang the final line in a voice so soft it was nearly a whisper. But that very softness made the entire room hold its breath. Because everyone understood, that blind girl wasn't just singing with her voice, but with a heart that had been ignored for far too long. When she finished, no one clapped right away. There were a few seconds of strange silence. Then, from the middle of the room, Sarah stood up. She didn't clap. She didn't cheer. She simply stood tall, hand placed over her heart as if to say, "That is my daughter, and my daughter just spoke to the world with her voice." One student stood up next, then another. Then the entire auditorium rose to their feet, applauding not because Lily was perfect, but because she was real. So real that everyone felt a little smaller after that song. The show had ended. Students poured out of the auditorium like bees from a hive. Parents rushed to take photos, hug their children, exchange proud smiles. Laughter, footsteps, the sounds of cleanup filled the space. But at one corner of the stage, Lily Whitman still stood motionless, quietly folding up her white cane, as if she hadn't yet understood what had just happened. Sarah hurried over and wrapped her daughter in her arms. Neither of them said a word. There was only the embrace, the warmth, and peace. It was a moment untouched by the noisy world, a small space where mother and daughter could simply breathe together. Amid the thinning crowd, a woman stood apart at the back of the auditorium. She wore a simple dark brown coat and a turquoise knit scarf. Her face was bare of makeup, but her eyes were striking not with judgment like most others, but with the gaze of someone who had lived through the same kinds of loneliness. When the room was nearly empty, she approached the mother and daughter, stopping a few steps away. Sarah looked up, cautiously. Lily, still unaware of who was in front of her, tilted her head slightly toward the sound. "Hello to both of you," the woman said, her voice deep and gentle like an October morning. "My name is Mara Levin. I work at the Harmony School of Music in Vermont." Sarah furrowed her brow slightly. The name wasn't familiar. But the woman's eyes didn't lie. "I came here this afternoon because my niece was performing. I wasn't expecting much, a few student dances and some pop songs. But then, I heard your daughter sing. And she paused, her gaze resting on Lily, who still stood still, fingers gently clutching her mother's arm. And I was frozen still, like the world stopped moving. Sarah tightened her grip on her daughter's hand, trying to remain calm. "You said you work at a music academy? We have a special program," Mara nodded, "for children with disabilities who show artistic talent. This summer, we're hosting a 3-week music camp. All expenses are covered, lodging, travel, scholarships. I would like to invite Lily to attend." Sarah froze, Part of her wanted to cry. Part of her was wary, too familiar with promises that disappeared. "I'm not sure," she hesitated. "She's very sensitive. She doesn't handle crowds well. She's not used to strangers. She's not good at talking." Mara offered a kind smile. "That's all right. At our school, no one needs to talk much. We teach through music, through breath, through patience." And then she knelt down slightly, speaking slowly and clearly in Lily's direction. "You know, Lily, your music reached places that words can't touch. At Harmony, we don't need you to be perfect. We only want you to be yourself." Lily tilted her head slightly. Her eyes still couldn't see. But in that voice, she recognized something familiar, a truth that needed no shape. "Can I sing my mom's song there?" she asked softly. "Of course," Mara nodded. "And if you'd like, you can teach the other children to sing it in your own way." Sarah looked at her daughter, at the faint glow that seemed for the first time to appear in those unseeing eyes. She knew this was the first time Lily wanted to step out into the world. Not to prove anything, but to share something deeply her own. That evening, in their small kitchen, Sarah made 2 cups of hot cocoa. Lily sat by the window, fingers tracing the wooden sill, lips quietly humming a line from "You Raise Me Up." Sarah set the mug in front of her daughter, then sat beside her, hand gently touching hers. "Do you want to go to Vermont?" Lily nodded softly. "If you come with me." "I will," Sarah said, her eyes misty. "Even if I have to walk there." 3 days later, a music teacher uploaded a video of Lily's performance online. Within 48 hours, the clip had over 1.2 million views. People shared it with hashtags. Number: The Voice Unseen. Number: Grace in Silence. Number: She Sings with Her Heart. Mara Levin called Sarah. "We've never done this before." But the school board decided to create an extra honorary slot. They'd like to meet Lily before the summer camp, and also her mother. Summer in Vermont arrived slowly, as gentle as an old piano melody echoing through a forest of maple trees. The Harmony School of Music campus sat in the Green River Valley, surrounded by tall grass meadows, stone-paved walkways, and the scent of lavender drifting in the breeze. The main building, constructed in the 19th century, stood with red brick walls and green glass windows, and on its main facade, the inscription read, "Where silence listens, and every voice matters." N. Lily Whitman arrived on a Monday morning, still holding her white cane, a small backpack prepared by her mother slung over her shoulder. Sarah walked beside her, holding her daughter's hand like a thread binding 2 worlds together. No one asked why Lily didn't greet anyone. No one asked why she didn't make eye contact. Here, there were children who communicated by tracing letters into each other's palms. Some used speech devices. Some couldn't sing, but kept rhythm with their hands. And Lily, a girl who could not see, spoke little, and sang from memory and emotion, immediately became part of that strange and beautiful symphony. She became friends with Sam, a mute boy gifted in hand drumming, and Elena, a girl with Down syndrome who could memorize melodies faster than the teachers. Each afternoon, Lily sat on a long bench beneath the shade of the elm trees and sang no microphone. No conductor, just sang, as if the earth itself quieted to hear something never said aloud. The final performance took place in the 3rd week, inside an old pinewood concert hall named Willow Hall. Sarah sat in the 2nd row, clutching the program booklet in her hands, where her daughter's name was printed as the closing act. Lily Whitman. "You Raise Me Up," a cappella. No one knew Lily had chosen that song. But Sarah knew. It was the song she used to hum whenever Lily had an anxiety attack. The only melody that calmed her daughter in the darkest nights when Sarah couldn't pay the power bill and their apartment was lit only by candlelight. Mara Levin stood in the wings, placing a hand on Lily's shoulder. "You don't need to see the audience," she said. "Just sing for the person you think about the most." Lily nodded, then stepped out. Quietly, steadily. No whispers, no camera shutters. Everyone seemed to understand that what was about to happen wasn't a performance. It was a prayer in the form of music. And then, she began, "When I am down, and oh my soul, so weary." Her voice hadn't changed, still not loud, still no technique, but every word seemed to be plucked by the hands of time. as if the many days no one saw her, no one expected anything of her, had forged a voice that didn't need to soar, it only needed to be true. Sarah cried from the very first line. She didn't sob, didn't bury her face in a tissue. She just sat still, one hand over her heart, because her heart was singing along with her daughter, not in sound, but in memory, in sacrifice, in a love that needed no explanation. You raise me up to more than I can be. When the final line faded, a deaf student stood. Then an elderly teacher stepped onto the platform, removed his glasses, and wiped his eyes. Then everyone quietly rose to their feet. No noise, no rush, just standing, like one stands in a chapel during the final hymn. That evening in the small dining hall, Mara Levin handed Sarah an envelope. On it was a silver blue seal. Harmony Academy, admission decision. Sarah looked at Lily. The girl sat beside her, fingers lightly touching a warm glass of milk, as if waiting for a signal that needed no words. We've decided to offer Lily admission into the full-time academic program this fall, Mara said. Full scholarship, including housing, and if necessary, for the mother as well. Sarah raised a hand to her mouth. She couldn't speak. If she sings like that because she misses you, Mara continued, then we believe. The place your daughter belongs cannot be without you. 2 years later, in a special televised interview for International Day of Persons with Disabilities, Lily Whitman, an official student at Harmony, was asked, "What made you decide to sing, even after being mocked?" Lily paused. Then she touched her chest, where a sun-shaped necklace gifted by her mother at age 10 rested. "Because my mom always listened to me even when the world didn't, and if someone listens to you, then you have to sing. Sing until the world learns to listen." And so, the journey of Lily Whitman came to a close, a journey of rising from the dark, reclaiming her voice, and touching an entire auditorium with pure, unfiltered sincerity. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe to help us continue sharing more human, healing, and hopeful stories like this one. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. We treasure every word from hearts that know how to listen. See you on the next journey.